Back live tonight here on In Focus, and thanks for staying on. Now, as the world celebrates Mother's Day, we shine the spotlight on the participation of women in politics ahead of the much-anticipated May elections. Despite political party having that degree of quotas in terms of women inclusion on their candidate list, there are some who believe that there's more that still needs to be done, particularly in terms of closing the gaps. Now, for more on that discussion, I'm joined by independent candidates, Faith Phathela, Anele Mda, Boitumelo, Molete of COSATU, Social Development Policy Coordinator, as well as Nazley Sharif, DA spokesperson of Women, Youth and People with Disabilities. You can weigh in tonight on the conversation on 072 110 5584. Otherwise, drop us an X at Newzroom 405. Good evening to you and those who celebrate the day. Happy Mother's Day. Those who don't, we're on the campaign trail. Happy campaign trailing and so on and so forth. But thank you very much for coming on and being a part of the conversation this evening. The past decade, one would say, we are seeing some advancement as far as gender issues are concerned and inclusion within our political landscape. But how significant are these improvements in terms of empowering women in our politics, and where are the challenges still persisting? Anele, let's start with you.
Thank you, Thabo, and a happy Mother's Day to all women of South Africa who are mothers on this day. Coming to your question, there is no empowerment of women that is happening in political parties, and it will never happen. I'm saying so proudly because I'm a product of party political structures. I know what I'm talking about. I've participated in those structures, and I know exactly how deepened tokenism of women is done, but also over and above that, women who are stuck in political parties do not share a broader vision of the objective way in which women ought to, seize leadership within themselves, outside of themselves, and in structures and in spheres where they are. And I think that is demonstrated, Thabo, in this country by an enormous occurrence, which was supposed to be a moment that we all as women of South Africa were supposed to have built on it when President Thabo Mbeki appointed the then Deputy President Phumzile Mlambo as the Deputy President of the country. And we were supposed to have never looked back from that moment. We're supposed to have taken that moment as a foundation that we as women of South Africa, we will work and use it as a post-colonial pivotal political way that will ensure that women are drawn to the mainstream in the extreme strategic levels of decision making. Yeah. But what did we do? Instead, we regressed, and we have never seen the elevation of a woman to such a powerful position ever again in this country. And we've never said anything about it, especially women who are stuck in political parties.
Right. Boitumelo, I mean, we speak of gender equality, and some critics say the challenge in how we are approaching gender equality, which is not transformational in a sense, is that we are always targeting women as a vulnerable group. And we then therefore look at empowering them in their roles within the social programs of society. And that's not how it should be approached. What is your take?
I think it's been quite clear that women are capable and women have the ability to actually lead. That has been quite seen in how, firstly, as Anele has just spoken about women being stuck in the political loophole, in the political loop. I mean, we've seen how women, both in the ANC as well as COSATU, have emerged in quite leadership positions. We have seen the DGS of the Deputy General Secretary of the ANC being a woman, and she's emerged quite strongly in that position and has led the ANC in its current form. Yeah. We've seen how COSATU in the past 2 terms have been led by President Zingiswa Losi, which
but has it changed? Has it changed the institution? And Zingiswa being in COSATU, has it changed in serious terms how the institution actually works?
Definitely. I think it has. I mean, I know it has changed the demographic, firstly, of the federation, but also it has changed the tone in which women are approached in the federation. We've seen one of COSATU's affiliates, which is a big affiliate of COSATU, the South African Textile Workers Union, also having a woman general secretary, Bonita Lobster, and a woman president who has emerged out of the last Congress, who's Susan. So in that, we see how women are actually in leadership positions and are able to forge through with championing for women needs and women's demands. We are also seeing in the COSATU structure that we have developed a gendered structure. This is the first time that we have a constitutional structure of women actually speaking to women needs and women's kind of focus when it comes to the federation, but also in the manner in which we lead in policy. The policy unit of COSATU is currently led by a woman. I am one of the most senior people in COSATU currently working in policy, being able to lobby and speak to policy that is inclusive and that is able to adapt to the current requirements that we have in relation to gender equity, but also gender inclusion. So for me, there has been quite a significant transformation in relation to how women actually engage in the trade union movement, and not just as administrators, not just as people at the background making tea and coffee, but women are actually making decisions that are influencing policy, that are influencing the direction of the Federation Party, as well as the political landscape of South Africa. So when it comes to the social policy influence, we are making inroads, and I will admit that there needs to be more inclusion of women, but there is now currently representation that is significant to be able to then have progress in the long run.
Nazley, of the 57% of all registered voters in the country being women and 43% being men, right? 15 political parties have a female representation of 50%. 7 parties achieved 40%, and a further 14 parties have a 30% female representation. I can think of just one off the top of my head right now, which is Sarah, which is got a leader that is a female. Do you know of any other political party that is contesting these elections that has got a female leader?
I mean, yeah, of course, you have Antipat at
yes,
Good.
Indeed.
We can't forget the leadership of Helen Zille within the Democratic Alliance. So yes, to answer your question, there are women leaders,
but very few of them. I mean, we can count 2 right now.
I agree. Too little, but at the end of the day, we must also understand that the political system needs for women to put their hands up and needs for women to actively participate in it. You speak about 50%, 57% of women, about 3 million more women are active voters. They're registered to vote and they go out to vote. And you'll find that this has happened forever. It's not something new. Women have constantly led the political space and political movements within South Africa. Our history points to this. Our day-to-day points to this. When we speak about women and we speak about the need for representation, this is where we need to look at. But at the end of the day, just like myself, just like the women on this panel, just like the women that have come and the women that are coming, we have to put up our hands. We have to say, listen, I am going to lead. I am raising my hand to put myself in leadership positions so that I can make a difference, specifically when it comes to women issues.
All right. Faith, I mean, you have raised your hand. You said, I want to do it, right? As far as resource allocation, how do you find that? How do you find that particular factor affecting what you are doing, raising your hand? I mean, if you're an independent candidate, be really honest, were resources forthcoming for you to be able to run your campaign?
Greetings, Thabo, and greetings to all the viewers. There's a calling upon my life to serve the nations as a member of parliament. And, you know, democracy is a gift from God, because now you get to choose the leaders that you want. Before there was democracy, we were led by monarchies, which are still there, by traditional leaders. So now, because of democracy, I can now be able to stand and contest as an independent candidate than trying to maybe work through a political party and try and get political favors from men. So contesting as an independent already, regardless of the gender, is a challenge, because independents are not funded. We have to go and fund our own campaigns. So in terms of me getting funding or requesting funding, yes, it's a challenge. But I wouldn't say that people are not funding me because I'm a woman. I think generally when I speak to people have got things that they're doing. They've got their own challenges. Even people who have got businesses, they'll tell you, I've got a big project that I'm doing right now. Unfortunately, I can't help you because this project is demanding. I don't think people are sidelining me or rejecting me because I'm a woman. I think generally people have just got a lot of commitments.
So where you are sitting, you're saying the factor of gender does not come into play when you're looking at decisions that would have affected you around resource allocations.
Right now, I wouldn't say being a woman is disadvantaging me. I believe that South Africa is ready to receive women leaders, and even the men politicians themselves. I engage with a lot of male politicians at campaigns and radio interviews and stuff, and they are very much receiving, not because, I wouldn't say because I'm a woman, but because of what I carry, my vision, what I stand for, my values. So I'm getting a lot of respect. So I believe that I wouldn't want to be that woman who is appointed because you're a woman, but I want to be someone who's appointed because I'm a stronger candidate compared to my male counterparts.
Yeah. Anele, you have challenged the institution, even national institutions at some point. You wanted your photo because they didn't put your photo there. And you said, where is my photo? Why am I here and my photo is not on? I mean, when you look at how responsive even government institutions are they moving towards that transformational agenda of being inclusive?
Absolutely not, Thabo. What you have is a hand-picking of women for token blackmailing posture, just so when numerically you have to speak about gender recognition, you can be able to say, but there's a woman there. But qualitatively, there is absolutely no recognition of the leadership of a woman that recognizes her as a leader who is capable of taking decisions without having to be surrounded by male. Because what happens in South Africa, when you identify a woman and gets put in a position of authority, a woman is set up for failure by being surrounded by males who must watch her, because there is a notion that says her and her alone in such strategic position of authority, it will be a disaster. That's the first thing. Secondly, then you have you've got the willing women who buy into the deepening of patriarchy, who will be okay with them being tokened just so they can be on the inside the boys' club. But when you're looking at the institutions generally of government, there was a time where there was a willing and a high keen appetite from the leadership at a strategic level to ensure that there's a recognition of leadership of women in particular. But that recognition and willingness and appetite has since dwindled and has since gone. I do want to repeat, though, the point that says we might have contributed in it by not rising to at that moment and buy in and solidify, cement the authority and the positioning of women. Because even as we speak sometimes about the fact that we produced the first woman woman chairperson of the AU in the form of Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma. We have not built on that as South Africa. We have not taken that as a strategic intent that must then have a direct influence in how we tilt the gender roles in our country, but also how we cement the positioning of a woman tactically as a leader, not because we must be used as a gender balancing tool.
So, do you therefore need the political elite co-opted to be the mouthpiece for gender equity in our politics?
I do believe that, Thabo, we cannot reduce structures and sectors like the women consolidation centers, like your women's leagues or your women's movement in political parties. We can't just look at them and say they no longer have a role. They do, because remember, struggles the world over universally are always led by women, but the beneficiaries of those struggles are never women. So ultimately, for us to be able to focus our entire leadership in true actual issues of our society, it always takes a woman leader. So we do need women that are organized in political stratas, that are able to agitate within political formations towards an agenda that is about recognizing the need of seeing a woman as a capable, worthy leader outside of the male counterparts.
Yeah. And Boitumelo, do you think then, while we are on that, the adoption by political parties, which I mentioned earlier on, of formal quotas that require all parties, well, certain parties certainly, to have a certain number of females represented within the higher structures, was that the way to go in breaking the cycle of gender exclusion?
Repeat that.
Boitumelo, I'm saying the adoption of formal quotas by parties, political parties, in your case, your alliance partners, the ANC, of a requirement that, for example, at provincial level, you must have 50% males, 50% female represented in the list, and so on and so forth. Was that enough in breaking the cycle of gender exclusion?
I think that was a tip of the iceberg. And I mean, we see that the ANC has quite capable leaders and capable women in the ANC. We see, I mean, how the Women's League have been able to vote in a new leadership. And we see how emerging the ANC Young Women's Desk has also moved forward with incorporating young women into the political landscape. So I think, I mean, appointing someone solely on quota is not something that we would rely on, but also acknowledging that we need to then acknowledge the disparities and try to put women in the forefront of these struggles. It's a very primitive part of actually advancing the incorporation of women in the movement and incorporation of women leaders in the movement. But we are seeing a number of women coming up and actually taking up positions of leadership and being able to speak to issues of women, but also have the political will, the political power, and the political stature and political kind of knowledge to be able to fight amongst the big boys of the political landscape. So for me, it's beneficial to have that quota, but also they are capable women who are actually worthy of being recognized and have the merit to actually lead and become leaders of the ANC as well as the alliance in its entirety. So the quota part is a starting point, but women are not in their positions only solely because they are women. These are women with strategic thinking capabilities and capabilities to champion forward the agenda of gender equity and gender equality in the political landscape and policymaking, and just basically in the running of the country in its entirety. I think, Thabo, we are well in the process of making sure that there's significant representation, but we also need to be able to move the bar a bit ahead. but we're getting there.
I wonder whether that is a function of time, or is there something more that needs to happen? Or we just need to wait time out, and eventually there will be more women in higher political offices than they are. Hold that thought. I'll get an answer from you when we come back. You can weigh in also tonight, 072-110-5584. Otherwise, drop us an X at Newzroom 405. Right, back live with you tonight, and the conversation continues as we continue to look at women participation in our politics, the politics of gender. Before the break, Boitumelo, I was saying, I mean, why are there fewer women than men in high political office? You're saying it's just a matter of time. So you wait it out. The more women come in, there will be more women who are rising up to the top.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I think that it's a matter of time. A lot of women are actually, going more into the technical space of the political environment, and they're able to come, they are the brains behind most of the leadership of the political parties. So it's a matter of time that they are actually put on the forefront, and actually they demand the space in the forefront. But at this stage, women are leading technical positions in political environments, and they are able to strategically align themselves with the objectives and the ideologies of the party, but also making sure that they incorporate the various challenges that women face in South Africa. So I definitely think it's a matter of time, but the capabilities are there, the interest is there, and the know-how is there for women to actually lead. So it's just progressively moving to the position where we will see more women emerge in leadership position in political parties. I think it's just a matter of time, and just looking at the current leadership of the ANC Youth League, of COSATU Young Workers, who have a woman chairperson leading the National COSATU Young Workers. So it's a matter of time, but it's gradually happening, and we're seeing a number of women across all walks of life being able to lead, whether as worker leaders or as just basic political party leaders. So it's really getting there. And I think, even myself as a young woman sitting in a very politically male-dominated environment, I'm able to also say from my perspective as a young woman in COSATU that we are actually moving the bar, and we're getting there. And we will be able to lead decisively and effectively to ensure that there's sufficient women representative, but also young worker representative.
Yeah. A recent study, Nazley, done by the Pew Research on women and political leadership ahead of the 2024 elections, says that of the many reasons that are there that you can go through, women not getting enough support, family responsibilities, sexual harassment, discrimination, and so on and so forth. The biggest reason why you have more men in high political offices than women is because women have to do more to prove themselves than men. And
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Thabo, I absolutely agree with that. I've been in politics for 15 years. I've been a public representative for 10 years. I'm finishing my first term as a member of parliament. And I can tell you from experience, I joined politics when I was 19 years old back at university. And even at university in student politics, student leadership, the patriarchy is always there. The patriarchy is a constant factor when it comes to women breaking those ceilings and making spaces within politics. You will also find some ladies, in senior political positions dressing a little bit more masculine, having to figure out, move on to be able to make decisions and to take up those leadership spaces. So I would agree with that. We have a lot going on. We have women are mothers, women are leaders in their households, single parents. And let me tell you, Thabo, how it's very difficult. Speaking from my experience as a young woman MP, where more young women are coming into parliament, And we're finding that the political system doesn't cater for young women who want to essentially be mothers in the future. We don't have in Parliament, we don't have any resources to cater towards young women who might have babies or women who might want to start a family, traveling from your province to Parliament and back, traveling for committee meetings. It makes it very difficult for women to really stand up and do all of those things. But that doesn't stop women from putting their hands up. And we've seen incredible women, like the woman here on this panel, incredible women in political parties, in the political spaces, juggling all of these at the same time and still leading societies and leading within communities. And I think this is just a testament to the strength that women have. And this is not something we've asked for. This is not something we're begging for. This is something that we've had to just make do with. Living in South Africa, one of the most violent countries when it comes to women, one of where, GBV is at its all-time highest. We have pay gaps that are still present today. We have women struggling to emerge within these leadership structures, within politics, within the private sector, within community organizations, NGOs, and stuff like that. So the struggle is real. The struggle continues. But just like the women that fought for freedom and the women that continue to fight today, we have to just continue fighting the patriarchy and really taking up space in these leadership positions and making the changes. One of the big things that I worked on in the Multi-Party Women's Caucus was better access for women politicians when it comes to healthcare, better access for women, with trusting in the system when it comes to gender-based violence and femicide, when it comes to empowering, when it comes to employment. And I mean, even if you go down to basic service delivery, it all affects women, and it's so good to see women raising up their hands, whether they're in political parties, whether they're independent candidates. I think it's great to see that moving forward as a society, we'll have more women leadership. But at the end of the day, like the panelists have said, we need political will, and we just need to stand up and say, I'm going to raise my hand, I'm going to move forward, and I'm going to start making changes that we need to have.
All right, back live tonight here on In Focus. Let's wrap up then the conversation with our panel. Faith, let me give you a chance here. What is your view on this? There are those who are saying, if we look at the candidates, independent, new parties and old parties that have been on the campaign trail, there's been so much infighting between the parties that there has not been enough focus, for example, been given to coming up with solutions that have got to do with inequality in this country.
You see, women are very influential. And what makes us very influential is that every human being on this planet currently living comes from a woman. So I believe that we are the ones who need to demonstrate that confidence that we are able to lead, and when given those opportunities, rising up with those opportunities, not wanting to always be in the kitchen, or, then demonstrate that you are indeed capable of doing what needs to be done. If you look at the families that are there in South Africa, many of them are being led by women, where you find that the man is not there. Maybe he's passed away or he has run away. And, a country is like a family. And as a woman, speaking maybe for myself, I know the pain of childbirth. And because of that, you always have that empathy, that compassion for people, because you know the value of bringing a child or a human being into this world. So because of that, I do believe that, say the day that we will have, say, a woman president in our country, that woman will be able to lead the country like she's leading a family and taking care of everyone's needs, all her children. Yeah. There's no woman who can say, I'll feed my firstborn on Monday and then my secondborn on Tuesday. She must make sure that all her children are eating every day. And so juggling this whole thing, it's not easy to lead as a woman, but it's possible, and we are doing it because of the determination that we have and the belief that, we were born to do this.
Yeah. And how do you see that? I mean, what is your view on how your gender affects your candidature how does it impact your chances of elections?
Fortunately for me, Thabo, I've always been a person who introduces herself as a leader. Me being a woman is a bonus. So I've never been a person who allows anyone to want to box me or to want to define my leadership on the basis of a breast or a private part that is different from the next person. And my candidature as well equally has carried that solid, vociferous visionary that I've always been. And I think in very small pockets, myopic mindsets that the issue of me being a woman was raised or was made to be an issue that must overshadow the fact that I'm a tested leader in this country whose work speaks for itself. I think I was able to quell it, and I think we must never allow ourselves as women to be put in a position where we either get questioned when rising up for leadership. We raise our hands, we get questioned. But when there's a crisis in the country and we rise up to ensure that there's stability, no one questions the agenda that we carry as women. And I think that's where the hypocrisy that comes when you want to recognize our leadership as women in very selective and seasonal aspects, and you want to use it as a weapon when it's necessary for you for destruction, and yet you identify it as a tool objectively for when you want to use it for something far greater and good. But I do want to state categorically that I've not faced any challenges that my campaign, that lessened the validity, the value that my candidature and my campaign carries on the basis of me being a woman.
So, and if we are to ask you a question, do you think a woman president would be better, worse, or neither than a male president? What would you say?
The solution to the leadership crisis that we have in this country keeps deepening because we have not given a woman a chance to lead this country. Yet we do have capable women who can emerge and become serve at any level in this country, including myself. I can serve as the president of South Africa.
What is that trait that you think has been missing? We've been giving men a chance, and women are going to bring a different trait into that space that would be better than what we have been seeing so far.
We don't need, Thabo, to define the trait of leadership that women must bring, because we've never defined the trait of leadership that men brought when they started to lead. That's where we must start refusing that whenever a woman rises, the first thing that a woman must do must pass the test of having to prove why you. We did not do that with Nelson Mandela. We will not do it with any woman president who emerges in South Africa and become the first president of this republic, because we have not put men in a queue and subject them to having to be grilled and be interrogated on their ability and their leadership trait that they bring on the table. Women are leaders, born, bred, proven, and tested. Allow women to emerge. Allowing women to emerge must not be on the basis of what this one said better than that one, because that's where society starts inciting women against each other. You're going to put me in the queue with Boitumelo and listen to my tone and listen to Boitumelo's tone and say, no, she speaks better English. Her English sounds rural. On that, you are going to reduce two powerful women who are capable, who are worthy, who are deserving. But when it's men, we don't have anything that a man must do to prove their leadership. We just look at them and say, he can be a leader. That's how we destroyed the likes of Mamuwini Madikizela.
Yeah. Boitumelo, so we wrap up. Let me give you that chance as well. How a woman president would compare with presidents who are men in handling, for example, several policy areas that we are challenged with in the country?
I think, Thabo, just to indicate that men have never been subjected to this type of scrutiny when it comes to their leadership, as Anele has said. And they have never been subjected to the type of, this is very much oppressive. It's patriarchy actually at play here. for us to try to dance and fulfill whatever patriarchy says about our leadership and our person and our agency as women to lead. So it's never been subjected to men. So I think at first we should just move away from the gendered perspective of trying to want to box people. That's the first thing that we need to do, and also acknowledge that women are actually oppressed. I mean, from reproductive labor to just care work that is unpaid for. So women are number one, men have never been subjected to this, but number two, women are actually still oppressed in the current system. But also women have been able to blossom through with these type of oppressions. We've seen Winnie Mandela, like Anele has indicated, and various other women like Mam Nkosazana Zuma, who led Dlamini Zuma, who led the AU quite productively and quite progressively. We've seen Mam Phumzile Mlambo Mngcuka also raise up her hand and say, I'm here. Yeah. I'm a leader and I am able, I'm capable. And in the little duration that she was given, she was able to prove that women are ably capable, ably capable like men to lead. So a women president should not be subjected to being scrutinized because of her gender. She should not be subjected to be scrutinized of anything else outside of her merit, her political capabilities, and her abilities to lead. So we need to stop thinking of a woman president, but thinking of people that are there as counterparts to these male politicians and are able to bring to the table significantly what they can bring themselves. So wanting to then define a woman president and it's unnecessary, it's uncalled for. Women are leaders, women can lead, and women have proven to lead. Majority of South Africans are raised by women, and we see quite a number of them in universities. We see a number of them in various challenging spaces, including SOEs leading, but also still being oppressed. So we need to vilifying women for being women and allow them to lead.
Let's leave it there. Much appreciated. Thank you all for coming on this evening and for being part of the conversation. That's Faith Phathela, Anele Mda, Boitumelo, Molete, as well as Nazley Sharif.